so this is the first day. This is day 1. Tomorrow you'll have day 2, which will be stuff that we've done more recently, right? Just want to go over a few of these things before we get, because this was from a little while ago. Alright, so remember that for slope, it's always m equals. So just when you're doing these, you'll see m equals after the answers. Okay. And we want to do the rise. So like here, the rise is on top, 1, 2, 3. And the run is, it's not going over left or right, so it's just over 0. Right? And that's how you get it undefined, when you have a 0 underneath. Now you might be able to just look at that and see, well, vertical lines are undefined. That's fine as well, but just reminding you, why is it undefined? If you went to a calculator, which you're allowed to use, right? If you went to a calculator and actually typed in 3 divided by 0, right? It says cannot divide by 0. It is undefined, okay? So that's why we write undefined. All right, and go down. Otherwise, you should be able to tell the sign of the slope just by looking at it. So like this one goes down, right? So you know it's going to be negative. So at least if it's multiple choice and you can see the lines going down, then you know the answer should be a negative. And if there's only 2 answers that are negative, then at least that eliminates it to the wrong answers. And let's see, then you just count the dots. See here, the dots may or may not be there. If not, you can just find them on your own. All right, so you go from here to here, so that's down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So down 7, negative 7. And to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now just count them very carefully and they work out fine. Yep, it's negative. Yep. Alright, not too bad. Now let's go down here. Write the equation. So remember that slope, y equals mx plus b, not just the slope, but the y-intercept as well. So you're really just looking for 2 numbers. Find the slope. So we can do maybe right here. I'm just trying to find a point where it goes through exactly, not here, not here. It's almost kind of, but not quite. So maybe way up here would be another good point. So you have to find 2 really good points where it goes through the grid lines. Right, then count it up. So we'll have to go up 1, 2, 3. So my slope is going to be 3 over. And then the run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And the y-intercept, where's it cross the y-axis? Where's the line cross? It's right here. Negative 2, so b equals negative 2. And then you plug those 2 numbers into our formula. Right, so we have y equals 3 over 5x, and then minus 2. Don't put plus negative 2, just put minus 2. Simplify it all the way. So that's how you get the equation from a graph in slope-intercept form. Okay. So you might remember we took a test just based on the first 6 questions when we're using all the graphs. After that, we took a test on, well, can you find the equations without a graph? So that's what the next part is. If you are just told, hey, m equals negative 3, right, and b equals negative 2, can you write the equation without actually graphing it, right? And this is the most basic question, because if you're given the m and the b, just like we found in the last problem, well, we just plug it into y equals mx plus b, right? So our answer would just be y equals negative 3 and then minus 2. So when they give you the slope and a y-intercept, that's the easiest, most straightforward question I think we have all year long. If you know what to do. Right? If you don't know, is that good, have a y-intercept? Or maybe you won't know what to do with that. The only really way to get this wrong is if you put the numbers in the wrong place and you put negative 2x minus 3. So just make sure you're plugging it in the right place. All right, so let's flip it over. Okay, there's a few more just like that. Number 9. So let's go to number 11. So here is where it changes on number 11. They give us the slope, right? But instead of the b, the y-intercept, they give us an x and y, which is fine because the formula we were just using also has x and y in it. So as long as they give us something in this formula, we can plug it in and figure out where it is. So go ahead and plug everything in. So we have y equals, right? The y is 4. So we're going to 4 equals, right? The m equals, right? 1. I'm going to put that in parentheses. And then the x equals, right? X is next. So I'm going to plug in my x, which is 5. So we'll have 4 equals 5. 1 times 5 plus b. So 5 plus what equals 4? What the question is. Or 5 minus what equals 4? And you can show that just by subtracting on both sides. So we have an m equals 1. We have a b equals negative 1. So our equation, when we just plug those back in to m and b, y equals 1x minus 1. And of course, you don't have to put the 1 in front of the x. You can just put y equals x minus 1, and that's fine. There you go. That's your equation. So the answers for all of these are always the same. It's an equation. So that was a little bit with when you're given a point in the slope. Notice that there's an undefined one right here. So let's go back and look at what that means on number 1. So undefined, you notice, does not go through the y-axis. When it's vertical, it does not cross the y-axis. So there's no y variable in the equation. It does cross the x-axis at positive 2. So the equation for this is just x equals 2. And this is unique about vertical lines, undefined slopes, is that they start with x equals. Everything else starts with y equals. But if it doesn't cross the y-axis, we shouldn't have a y inside the equation. It does cross the x at 2, so the equation is just x equals 2. So going back to here, if you see an undefined slope, first hint is that's vertical, so it's going to be x equals. It's one of those special cases that's different, right? And then look at what the x is, right? What's the x equal to on this problem? All right? It's just equal to 1, so the equation is just x equals 1. So just remember, undefined slopes are a little bit different. We don't have to do as much work like we did on number 11 right above. Okay. Let's see here. Let's look at number 17. So the last case, oh, this is just finding slope. Okay, so 17, these are just finding slope. So recall we have several methods for finding slope. The trick here was to remember that the y's are the run and those go on top. So I want to subtract these y values on the top. And that the run are the x values, and you want to put those on the bottom and subtract those. As long as you put the y's on top, the x's on bottom, it works out pretty good. Now we're not graphing these, so it's okay if the numbers are a little weird like they are. So we're going to have negative 5 minus 2, which is negative 5 minus 2 is negative 7. Yeah. And negative 19 and negative 16. Okay, so negative 19 plus 6 would be negative 25, plus 10 more, negative 35. And then always, always, always reduce when possible. So like here, we could divide top and bottom by 7. Yeah, right. And notice how we have two negatives, right? Top and bottom. So negative divided by negative, those cancel out. So we have 1 over 5. So the slope is 1 there. So on these, just looking at the directions, it says, just find the slope. So we found the slope, m equals 1/5, and we're done. The last type of problem, actually, the first step is to do this. So that's why we did the first four, 15 through 18, is finding slope, because once you get to the next set, the first thing you have to do is find the slope. But then we also have to find the y-intercept like we did earlier. So let's start number 19, just like we did number 17, and find the slope. So we got 4 and negative 4, right? So we got 4 minus negative 4 on the top. And on the bottom, we have 3 and 5. So we got 3 minus 5. Now notice on the top, you see how I have two negatives? That's because the formula has a negative, but then the number we're plugging in also has a negative, so there's 2 of them. So negative and negative make a positive. So we have 8 over 3 minus 5, which is negative 2. And 8 divided by negative 2 is 4. Is that correct?
Yes.
Almost? Negative. Bad. Remember, throughout all of this, if you make a mistake, the most common mistake is forgetting a negative. So we get focused on all the numbers and sometimes forget about just a little sign, and that can change the whole thing. But we're not finished, because our answer is going to be an equation, just like it was up here. Right? So basically at this point, we have a slope and we have a point. So we just need to do exactly what we did up here. We had the slope was 1, the point was 5, 4, and we went through these steps and we have the equation. So this last problem really just combines this process for finding b, right, and this process for finding m, and it combines them into one problem where we have to find the m and the b. We have to do both parts. So step 2 would just be, let's plug everything in to here. Figure out what b is. At this point, I actually already know my answer is going to start with y equals negative 4x. I just don't know what the b is, so I'm halfway done. Don't know what that y-intercept is. So then we go ahead and plug it all in. So we have y is equal to 4. So we got 4 equals. The slope right here is negative 4, so my m is negative 4. The x is equal to 3. Plug that in. It's like when you ever get stuck on these, it's like, well, just write down y equals mx plus b and see what you have and plug it in. And you'll kind of know maybe what to do after that. So we have 4 equals negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 plus what equals 4? Right, so rewrite this. We got to add 12 on both sides, right? And 4 plus 12 is 16. So our final answer, we have a slope of negative 4. We'll put that in. And our y-intercept, we know, is 16. So I'm going to put plus 16. There's our final answer, y equals negative 4x plus 16. And notice how we're figuring out all of this without graphing. Now, if you really wanted to and you weren't quite sure, you could always go off to the side and do a little sketch. Like 3, 4 is right about here. 5, negative 4 would be right here. And you're trying to find the equation of this line. So you could actually still kind of figure out the rise over the run. You'd get down 8 over 2, which is negative 4. And then you might be able to figure out the y-intercept that crosses at 16. But we're doing this whole problem and figuring out this equation, but without the graph. But you can still do a little sketch if you need the extra help. Okay, so make sure you have all those written down, and you want to finish that roughly by the beginning of the period tomorrow. So we got a little bit of time today because it's a shorter day. And then finish up tomorrow. You'll get part 2 tomorrow when you finish part 1. When you finish part 1 That's when you get part 2, which is more like what we just took our test on with all the graphing, the shading, and everything else greater than or equal to. Okay, so this is really the heart of the review because this has been a while since we've done some of this. And tomorrow is more of the more recent stuff that you might already know how to do on your own. Okay, so work on that for the rest of the period, and good luck.